Home Again stars Reese Witherspoon as a 40-year-old woman who takes in 3 young men into her home for no real reason, because there is no real plot direction other than that. A hodgepodge of stuff. First up is people category. We're looking at the acting. This is a rom-com. It's more com than rom. The acting is exactly as you'd expect. Nothing brilliant, nothing with range, just basic. 1 out of 2 possible stars. Characters. I will say this. They tried, maybe, to make interesting characters, but I didn't like them. I didn't like any of the characters and forgot who everybody was basically while watching because it was so dull and nothing sucked me in. The characters for me were so uninteresting that I have to give it 0 out of 2 possible stars. Casting wise, as much as I like Reese Witherspoon in some certain roles, I think this is actually the wrong movie for her, and I can actually make the same case about the 3 young men that she takes into her home. The young men didn't feel like they belonged in the film. They felt more like they belonged in a better written sitcom or something, but they just kind of stuck out like a sore thumb in this because they didn't feel right. And Reese Witherspoon is supposed to be playing this 40-year-old woman, and a lot of the movie is about age. So you have this 40-year-old woman, you have this 20-something kid that's probably younger than me, and there's something romantic going on between the two, but you don't feel it. And part of that is because you don't really buy the fact that Reese Witherspoon is 40 years old. She might be. She doesn't look it. She looks great for her age and everything, but this movie is specifically about age. I didn't feel it. She was supposed to be older, so as far as casting goes, I gotta say 0 out of 2 for that one as well. What about importance? Like I said, there's no plot direction, there's no real reason why any of this is happening, or else you don't feel it when watching it. As to importance, you don't feel like anybody serves any kind of important role in the film, and I can't even make a guess as to what that would be, other than maybe Reese Witherspoon housing these kids. But that doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel solid enough to make a case. So importance, 0 out of 2 possible stars. Chemistry, well, this is a rom-com, and I will say that romance is part of the film. But Reese Witherspoon does not have chemistry with the young man. If you want to call them her housemates that she's friends with, fine. But this whole thing about the romance between them that I just don't feel, as well as her nurturing mother nature with the other boys, I didn't feel that either because of the age problem. So again, with chemistry, 0 out of 2 possible stars, making the people category a whole whopping 1 out of 10 possible stars. Next, we look at the writing category. With dialogue, I will say this again is typical. It's a rom-com. There is no real jokes that stuck out with me. In general, it was a typical dialogue movie, so I will say 1 out of 2 possible stars for that. Balance. Is this a balanced story? Yes, no. Like I said, there's nothing really there. The boys are trying to make a movie, and it kind of follows their story, but not strong enough. So I'll say 1 out of 2 possible stars. How's the story itself? There's not much of a story that I can really pick out. There is something to be said about the friendship aspect of it. Something about the importance of understanding who you are and how age fits into that. But it's, again, not super strong, so most people probably won't really pick up on it. For that, I have to only give it 1 out of 2 possible stars. How about originality? While I can't say I've really seen any kind of movie like this, because it's so bland and it just feels like you have seen it before. It just, because there are other movies out there that are bland and don't seem to fit anywhere else. Originality, 0 out of 2 possible stars. Was it interesting? Before I saw it, the trailers didn't really interest me enough. I have semi-faith in Reese Witherspoon, so I definitely was interested in that aspect. But while I was watching, I was realizing that the trailers were pretty much right in dissuading me against the movie. 1 out of 2 possible stars for interesting. That gives the writing score 4 out of 10 possible stars. Behind the scenes, was it any better regarding visuals and things like that? Visuals is pretty typical. You don't usually expect much to come out of a rom-com, and that's pretty much what you see from this movie. So 1 out of 2 possible stars. The directing seems to be typical, nothing fancy, nothing that sticks out. The storytelling was as much as it could be with a script. So the directing would only get 1 out of 2 possible stars. Editing is pretty much similar. It's stitched together exactly as you would expect. There's nothing fancy there either. I could have probably been pulled into the editing room and do just as good of a job. So 1 out of 2 possible stars for that. Advertisement. The actual advertisements for the movie, the trailers and everything, didn't interest me. They looked kind of dumb. And guess what? They kind of were dumb. So advertisement, it was as advertised, nothing false there, 2 out of 2 possible stars. As for the music, it fit in with the movie just fine. Nothing amazing or anything like that, so I'll just say 1 out of 2 possible stars for music, bringing the BTS score up to 6 out of 10 possible stars. Narrative arc score. Introduction. We are introduced to the 3 young men and Reese Witherspoon's character, as well as her background with her father and her husband, who she is now separated with. So a lot of stuff's going into the introduction of introducing who these people are and currently doing in their life. 2 out of 2 possible stars for that. The inciting incident is when Reese Witherspoon takes the boys into her home. So 2 out of 2 possible stars for that. Obstacles. I think for the most part, I didn't feel obstacles. I felt as if the boys had to get their movie done, and that was their main obstacle throughout the movie. And Reese Witherspoon basically had to find herself in a way, so that was her main obstacle, but nothing really felt like this is an obstacle, this is an obstacle, this is an obstacle. So 1 out of 2 possible stars. Climax, I gotta say, nothing felt like a culmination of everything before it. It just felt like another scene. So as far as that goes, it's a little anticlimactic. 1 out of 2 possible stars. Falling action, did everything calm down and come to a new norm that's different from how it began? Not really. It just felt like everything else, just like the climax. It did have an ending, but at the same time, it's nothing that we really care about. 1 out of 2 possible stars. That makes the narrative arc score 7 out of 10 possible stars. Bringing it into the entertainment category. Do I consider this a rewatchable movie? No. So 0 out of 2 possible stars for that, which also means that I don't want to buy it or own it, obviously. So 0 out of 2 possible stars for that. Did I have any fun while watching it? It is a comedy in some regards. Unfortunately, no. I didn't have any fun really watching it. I was waiting for something to change, something to pick up the pace, something to be fun, but it didn't happen. 0 out of 2 possible stars. Do I have an impulse to talk about it other than this review? If somebody brings it up, I'd probably even forget it exists. Did it suck the audience in? Like I said many times throughout this episode, no. It's a very uninteresting movie, and you will have distractions everywhere around you. I don't think anybody really cared about it. 0 out of 2 possible stars, which makes the entertainment score a whole whopping 0 out of 10 possible stars. Which means this might be the most unentertaining movies I've ever seen this year. Specialty category, it's a rom-com, so how's the comedy and how's the romance? Comedy, I didn't find anything funny about it. 0 out of 10 possible stars. How was the romance? Well, I will say this. Romance was part of the plot. It is there, even though I didn't feel the chemistry or anything, so I will at least give that 5 out of 10 possible stars. How about the drama? Did it feel like a drama? No. 0 out of 2 possible stars. Reese Witherspoon. As a Reese Witherspoon movie, how was this? I don't think she did terrible. You'll probably be choosing a good number of films before this if somebody is discussing Reese Witherspoon, but you can't say she's bad in it. She's just typical, and she's forgettable in it. So, I don't know. I will say 5 out of 10 for that. Finally, is it halfway decent? I think it has a lot of work to go through before I would consider it halfway decent. In certain scenes, it could have gotten there, but I will instead say it was halfway decent. It was a quarter decent, and say 5 out of 10 possible stars for that. And if we add all those stars up together, we get 33 out of 100 possible stars. 33%. This is not a good movie. It's in my bottom 5 of the year. This is a movie to probably avoid if you possibly can. But that's it. Guys, follow me on Twitter and Tract.tv at the username IAMDWG. That's IMDWG. And for YouTube, you want to subscribe to me. Hit that like button. Hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review.